What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our SEC channel. The Vanderbilt Commodores are up next here as we take a look at each team and just give you my initial thoughts on these teams in the SEC. And yes, we're doing every single team. That does include Vanderbilt. And if you're wondering about the new teams, Texas and Oklahoma, those will be the next 2 days. Those are the only teams that we've got left to do this on. So let's jump in here to this one. Vanderbilt 2-10 last year, last place in the SEC East. Obviously, this team had a bad year, and it almost seems like the gap between Vanderbilt and the rest of the SEC, with Texas and Oklahoma coming over and with NIL and the transfer portal, almost seems like the gap is getting wider and wider. Remember, it wasn't that long ago where Vanderbilt was somewhat competitive in the SEC. I mean, they weren't finishing last every year, but it's going to be tough for them to dig out of that hole. But let's get into the offense first. They're going to lose every single quarterback that played last year. All of them went into the transfer portal. And they added some players, though, and it'll be interesting. This could be an upgrade. Diego Pavia, remember at New Mexico State, he beat Auburn last year, but didn't always look great. He'll be an option. They also added Nate Johnson, a speedy guy, really athletic from Utah. So I'm really interested to see who winds up winning that quarterback job. Drew Dickey still on the roster, and maybe have some other young players in there as well. But quarterback position, it's a question mark. We'll see what that looks like. You look at the running back spot, and they look decent there. Patrick Smith is gone, but Cedric Alexander is back. He was one of the better freshman running backs, I guess, in the SEC last year. Had a pretty solid season. So they'll have him back. But then you look at wide receiver, going to lose several of their top receivers. Jaden McGowan is gone. Will Shepard, he's gone. London Humphreys is gone. Had a few other players in there as well enter the transfer portal. And even at tight end, they lose their top tight end, Justin Ball. Logan Kyle also went into the transfer portal. So they lost a lot as far as just pass catchers go. You look at what they added. They did add Jeremiah Dillon from Ole Miss. Hasn't really played a lot that I know of. And then they added another one from Texas Tech. So you really didn't do a whole lot to add to that receiver room. And so I think that's definitely an area of concern. What will the pass game look like? I'm sure they'll be run heavy next year, especially if you've got a dual threat guy back there at quarterback. Maybe they should just run the triple option. They might do better off doing that. We'll see. But offensive line, they lose 3 starters there, so that's going to be a question mark as well. I would say offensively, this team probably going to be a little bit worse. I mean, it's going to be about the same, honestly. As bad as Vanderbilt was, it can't really get much worse. But I'll say they'll be a little bit worse on offense. And then we go to the defensive side. It looks a little bit better when you look at what they have coming back on this side of the ball. Defensive line, they lose 3 guys to the transfer portal, but they have some of their better defensive linemen coming back, including DeCosmo, probably their best pass rusher last season. You look at the linebacker spot, they do have Langston Patterson coming back. That'll be good for them. Prince Coley as well. So yeah, linebacker looks to be pretty solid. They did lose Ethan Barr and Kane Patterson, but that was actually a position where they were fairly deep last year. And so that's a spot where we're not too concerned about them. You look at the secondary, they only lose B.J. Anderson at corner, not one of their top guys. So they're looking good at cornerback, bringing Martell Height back, bringing Trudell Berry back, Tyson Russell coming back. And so, yes, cornerbacks look pretty solid. They will lose Ricky Wright at safety. Also, Jalen Mahoney, probably the best player in the secondary last season. He'll be gone. Well, I say best player that they're losing. C.J. Taylor is back. So that's a big time player that will be back. He did not enter the transfer portal. Probably going to be maybe the best player on this team, honestly. Definitely, I would say probably the best player on defense, or at least in that secondary. And so the secondary doesn't look too bad. They don't lose too much, really. You look at what they did in the transfer portal. They added an edge rusher from Purdue. They added a cornerback from Wyoming, Colby Taylor, another cornerback from Eastern Washington, Marlon Jones, and Zaylen Wood, a defensive lineman from Middle Tennessee. So they have enough coming back with Clark Lee as a defensive-minded coach. I think the Vanderbilt defense can be better next year. I think they can be decent on that side of the ball. So when you combine it all, offense a little bit worse, defense a little bit better, this Vanderbilt team should be about the same. They're probably going to be the worst team in the SEC again. I just don't see them. I haven't looked at the schedule. Maybe they win some games in the non-conference. Maybe they can get to 3-9 and have a better record. But as far as just how good this team is, yeah, I'm going to say Vanderbilt will be about the same in 2024. Do you guys agree? Do you agree? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below.